Nice. All right. Day 420 of going live. Thanks for sticking thanks for sticking it out with me, everybody. I appreciate y'all so much. All right, today we're going to be analyzing a subject to deal. But first, new podcast alert. If you guys do not know anything about HUD loans, which is the equivalent of FHA loans, where it's like super low down payment for single family homes. I mean, for multifamily new construction, these are just amazing loan products. I mean, they can go from 85, 87% loan to cost. So you generate enough equity. I mean, you can build a entire apartment building without having to raise that much more equity. So if you do not know who Michael Ian is, definitely check it out. He's probably one of like 25 attorneys with tax exempt entity experience in the United States. This is a guy you want to know. He's closed over at least 300, 350 affordable housing development deals in the past. And you want to learn from someone that has experience, definitely check this one out. This is on youtube.com/@Kent_HE. Check it out today. Don't miss it out. I mean, you would be silly if you missed out on this podcast. It's so good, full of such great valuable information. All right. Anyways, today we're going to be looking at a subject to deal because I haven't looked at it for like a week now. Like to kind of keep it fresh and help you all understand how to mechanically and tactically input a deal that is a creative finance deal. So this is 13934 Silos, San Antonio, Texas 78252. Let's see. Purchase price 265,500. Let's start typing this in. 265,500. Remaining balance is 240 grand. So I'm gonna come over here and put in $240,000 in K6. 3.875% is the interest rate. So that goes right into K7. Entry fee is 25 grand. So I'm gonna manually type that in here so that it's just my cash to seller, which I'll probably there's probably some assignment fee in here, but I'm just gonna put that right in here in the total. Closing costs, I'm gonna put this at about 2.5% for my closing cost. My renovations, let's go to the property really quick. That's pretty much it. It's a nearly new build, 2021, 1,276 square feet, 3 bed, 2 bath. Okay, great. Now, when I looked at this property, they're even advertising to selling this up to. Now, why would someone sell this up to, right? So a subject to deal is when you're buying a property, but instead of you taking out a loan to pay off the old loan on the existing property, you are taking over the payments on the underlying loan. So the seller's name continues to remain on the loan. Okay. Now, with that said, here's what's going on. 13934 Silos M. Let's see what their market rent is. So there's two things I'm going to do, right? The first thing I'm going to do is look at the HUD FMR. And FMR stands for fair market rents. What county is this in? Bexar County. So you look up HUD FMR and you click on the first link on the website in Google search. Scroll down, click on access small area FMRs, look up FY 2025 FMRs, go to Texas. And this is in Bexar County that we just found just now. Bexar. Now you're going to get by bedroom count, by zip code, what your rent ceiling is. And 78252. 78252. You're going to see that the rent ceiling for a 3-bed is 2,400 roughly. Oh, give me 1 second. I gotta plug in my mouse over here. Where are the batteries? All right, I'm back. 78252. Rent ceiling is 2,400. So let's note that down. 2,400. And then the 4-bed is 2,820. And this is a rent ceiling, and that obviously includes some utilities, right? 78252. 78252. Okay. I'm writing down all these numbers because my partners already know how I analyze deals. So this is going to be a really fast one. In case it ever turns out to be a deal, they can know where the numbers came from. Now, the next thing I want to do is go to affordablehousing.com. I'm going to go to the owner section. I'm going to go to the market rent estimator, plug in the address, plug in bedroom count, And you're gonna see right here, the number I care most about is this number on the bottom right, which says for 25 units within a 0.16 mile radius, the average rent is 1613. 1613. And that's a 0.16. So that's a really close radius, right? That means I have pretty high confidence that that market rent is going to hold true. Now, the crazy part is if you just assume that you can see the HUD FMR and you notice that the rent ceiling is 2400 and you underwrite the deal as 2400, you would be grossly overestimating the rent. Now, why is that, right? It's because the more reasonable rent using the market rent is 1613, not 2400. And just for you all that want to understand what does rent reasonableness mean, you guys can look up the rent reasonableness housing choice voucher program guidebook, right? Housing choice voucher is what was previously known as Section 8. And if you go to Section 2.2, right, your location, your size, your unit type, all that stuff matters, okay? Now, in conducting rent reasonableness, right here it says that PHA, or the Public Housing Authority, they're the ones that administers all the vouchers, says that the PHA must determine whether the rent to the owner is a reasonable rent in comparison to rent for other comparable unassisted units. So obviously size, unit type matters. But guess what? If you see that the average market rent is 1613 within less than a quarter mile radius for 25 units, guess what? This is probably going to be the more reasonable rent. So this means you can't charge more rent simply because you're renting out to a voucher holder. Okay. Now, given that fact, that's why I'm using 1613 here in B16 as my rental assumption, because that's what's posted, right? Okay, so now got 1613. I got my renovations here. I don't think I need to do much renovation on this property. I mean, the photos look pretty good. I might replace flooring in one room, maybe two rooms. So I'll just do about, if I go to the rehab calculator right here, I'm gonna assume I don't need to paint anything. We'll still replace two toilets with high pressure flush toilets. For my flooring, I'm assume a third of the home needs new flooring because I saw some carpeting, so it's 3,200 bucks right there. I got 500 bucks for some landscaping in case I need to keep it tidy before it gets rent ready. And I got 1,500 bucks for the roof, right? Just in case there's any issues with the roof while I am doing this, while I'm getting a property renter. So that gives me a $7,300 rehab. Okay. Now, what is disclosed to me as my PITI? All right. So this says my PITI is 1654. Okay. So if I go to equals 1654 in my property tax section in B28, right? I'm 1654 minus my principal payment of the subject to loan that I'm taking over and the interest portion of the subject to loan that I'm taking over. So this allows me to not have to pinpoint and be super 100% accurate on what my principal portion and the interest portion of the payment is every single month because frankly, it doesn't matter. I'm just trying to see whether or not this property is going to cash flow. That's why it doesn't matter, right? At this point in time, you just want to see whether or not this property is worth your time to investigate further. And by being worth your time to investigate further, that really means whether or not you should send someone out there to get photos, send a contractor out to give you a bid, or evaluate the condition of the home. All that stuff matters. So you're gonna have to figure out what are you gonna do, right? So that's why I can just back into using my total PITI that's been disclosed to me to get to my taxes and my insurance because that's probably what is being paid out for. This gets me to my cash flow number. Now I'll probably add an extra 30 bucks because I'm going to assume that that property was used for a primary residence property, but now I'm going to use it as 30 grand. Okay. I mean, $30 extra because if I turn it from a primary residence property to an investment property, chances are someone's going to understand or think that it's going to cost them more money, right? And that's a matter of fact. Okay. So now that you got that piece in play, you got 10% set aside for maintenance every single month, right? That's, you know, that roof is going to get replaced in 10, 15, 20 years. So you must also put some money aside today because that money doesn't belong to you, right? Don't be that person that overestimates their profitability because they underestimate that expense. Because you know you got to put aside money every single month. You know that air conditioner is going to get replaced at some point. You know that water heater is going to get replaced at some point. So you got to start doing that now. Then you got 10%. for property management, and then you got 5% for vacancy, meaning the house is gonna be empty at some point, right? Someone always moves out, whether that's due to natural causes or they have different life circumstances that come up. It's gonna happen. So it's not zero, that's for sure. Okay. So if you rent this property out as a three-bedroom property, right, and you're able to get 1613, you would be negative $475 in cash flow a month. That's a negative 14.6% return based on all the details that we just put that into, assuming you bought this property for a subject to deal at 265.5K with a rehab of around 7,300 with a $25,000 down payment with a 3.875% subject to interest rate. Great. Now, this is the difference between costing you and a mistake, right? So if you just assume it was 2,400, right, which would be a big mistake, don't forget that includes utilities. So even if you got it at 2,400, this will only still be a $116 cash flow a month, right? Not even including utility expenses because you got to include utility expenses if you are going to charge that. But that's why this is not a deal. At least, and this is not investment advice, right? I'm not soliciting any investment on this call. I'm not saying 10% is the magic number. But for me, at the very minimum, I had to figure out, hey, if I'm going to only make 3.6% return on my capital, why don't I just go buy a 10-year treasury bond yield for like 4.5% instead? And that's technically a lot less risk, right? The execution risk, meaning what is the chances of your contractor showing up on time and doing what he or she said they were going to do? That's execution risk. There's a real chance that your project is going to be delayed. There's a real chance that something's going to pop up that you didn't expect. I rarely ever hear anybody talk about a project that went completely smoothly and didn't have any issues with budget and didn't have any issues with timeline. Super, super rare. So be very wise about where you spend your time, your energy on, and really evaluate for yourself why would you do that. Now, if you were buying this property for a single family home to live in, yeah, that might be a great deal because where else are you going to get a loan for 3.875% nowadays? It's very hard. But that's why everyone's circumstance is different. That's why you got to talk to your own investment managers and advisors about what your goal is of your portfolio and all that stuff, right? So that's it for today. You guys want to copy the spreadsheet? Go to affordablehousing.io, not .com. Go to get deal analysis tool, put in your name, email, your phone number. That's the fastest way for you to get a copy of the spreadsheet. I didn't make the spreadsheet from scratch. I got it from a few other folks. I modified it, tweaked it so that I can put in these scenarios myself and analyze my deals a lot faster. That's it. Okay. I hope you all have an amazing Saturday. I hope you all spend some quality time with your family and friends today because that's what life is all about. All right. I hope you have an amazing day. I'll see you all tomorrow for day 421. Have a good one, everybody.